You know, New York is losing over 100,000 people every single year. They're fleeing our state. They're leaving because they don't see opportunity. If you're a grandfather, a father, a mother, an aunt, a friend, you're watching your people you care about, leave this state to find opportunity someplace else. The answer that I always hear is, well, we need more money to be put into these projects here, and that'll make things happen.
What is it actually? It is a way for our elites in this state to reward their friends with jobs yet again, where the corporations actually write the laws and regulations to make sure the little guy can't survive. I want community to make this work, not taxpayer dollars. We can make it better. We can build things again in New York. Of course, locally we can. Thank you.
We have to create a new environment in New York State, a new culture in government. No more stepping in. No more New York losing. No more old money. No more old New York. We need a new New York.
All right. Good morning and welcome to another episode of the Liberty Dad Podcast, a discussion on politics and culture. I am your host, DL, America's most objective libertarian. For tuning in live, thank you so much for giving me your time so early this morning. All right, quick announcement really quickly. If you're a regular audience member of this show, you know that I'm kind of on a streaming sabbatical through the end of December. I may drop a video here and there, but otherwise, you should not expect to see me. However, I do have a candidate that I had made a commitment to, and we will keep our commitments. And also check out last night's pilot episode of Dad Talk Roundtable, where I gathered together several dads for a discussion as men, husbands, and fathers on things that are important to men here in the United States. Our topic last night was what I wish I had known before becoming a husband and also a father. So look forward to that series every second Monday of the month. Now, today, we're going to have on a candidate, as you probably already guessed. We're going to have on Larry Sharpe. He is running for New York governor. So without further ado, let's get him in here. Larry, good morning. How are you, sir?
Good morning, brother. Good to see you.
Awesome. All right, let's dive right into this. I have a good handful of questions, and we're going to see how
Okay.
well you do, right? Because
Uh-oh. All right. Here we
candidates,
go. Here we go.
that means we got to give the candidates a tough time. So first and foremost, why are you running, and discuss the challenges running in New York as someone who is not a Republican or Democrat?
That could be 7 hours just by itself. But yes, that's a lot. For those of you who know, this is my third shot running at governor, and people always say, "Well, Larry, you always running for something." Not true at all. I've only run for one thing, and that is governor of New York. Now, did I seek a nomination for the Libertarian Party for the vice presidency a couple times? Not really. Only in 2016. The other two I dropped out because the candidate that I wanted didn't win, so I don't really run after that. I only really have run for governor of New York. Why? If we stop them in New York, we stop them everywhere. Not just that. I am a New Yorker. I'm born here, raised here. My family is here. It's important. My business is here. It's important that I fix this state's where I live, and I don't want to leave. So maybe it's a selfish reason why I'm running to them, because I don't want to move, because
Okay.
I love my beautiful state, but I know that its government is broken, so we have to try to fix it. The biggest challenge is I'm a one-party state, and many states are. I'm not the only one who's that way, but I'm a one-party state, meaning that Democrats win across the state all the time now. A Republican has not won any statewide election in my state in 23 years. That's an entire generation of no Republican being a senator, AG, governor, nothing. Republicans only win locally. You might go, but Larry, I'm not a Republican. Why do I care? Well, if you're libertarian, you know that competition matters. And when you have no competition, the one party does whatever it wants. It's the same problem as, say, Nebraska, but for Republicans.
Mhm.
Utah, except for Republicans. So it's so bad that in Nebraska and in Utah last cycle, neither one of those states ran a candidate. Democrats did not run a candidate in those states for U.S. Senate, not for the state Senate, U.S. Senate, right? They don't bother running. They can't win anymore. So what does that mean? If you lean left and you want more left-leaning policies in New York State, you actually don't get as many as you want. You don't. You might think you do, but you don't. Why? Because the Democratic Party says, I don't listen to you. I do whatever I want. I'm the establishment. I'm going to win no matter what. If you're a Republican, they go, well, you don't even count. You can leave my state. In fact, my governor literally said, and her words, if you're a Republican, please get on a bus and go to Florida. I don't know why she wants you on a bus, but that's what she said. And she also said, if you vote Republican, again, my governor said this, you are anti-woman and anti-American. And the governor before her said, there is no room in my state for conservatives. So that's what I'm up against. Not that I'm a conservative again, but I want competition back and forth. The only way you're going to change my state is through independence. So my state will stay blue until it either goes independent or just stays blue. It will go independent before it goes red. And libertarianism is the best shot for it, because libertarianism isn't red or blue. Libertarianism is something that does have some left-leaning / right-leaning ideas. But as you know, the number one piece is localism, leaving people alone, getting government out of the way. And that's something that right now a lot of people are at least understanding and liking, particularly in New York City with Mamdani winning. So I think that shows that there's been a big change. So that's why I'm running. It's a challenge. And the biggest challenge I have is getting on the ballot, believe it or not, which is I'm the only guy who's done it in the past who's running now. So I have a shot at doing it. That's the hardest thing. We have to get 45,000 signatures starting mid-April in a 6-week period. It is arbitrary hard. And in reality, it getting done is almost insane. Last year, New York State was the only state in the union that did not have a presidential candidate on the ballot. The independent presidential candidate on the ballot. Only the top two. No one else was on the ballot. And 2022, New York State was the first time in about 100 years we had no independent candidate for governor on the ballot. Now, the advantage I have, though, is matching funds. Matching funds is why Mamdani actually won New York City. People don't really know that. New York City has matching funds 8-1, which means for every $1 that qualifies, New York City gives him $8. I'm not joking. So New York City gave Mamdani $12 million. If you give me $12 million, I'm the next governor of New York. Let me say it again in case anyone was joking. You give me $12 million. If anyone happens to give me $12 million, if you give me $12 million, I will be the next governor of New York. And the issue here is we now have matching funds in New York State, 6-1. So once I raise $500,000 from 5,000 New Yorkers, New York State will give me $3 million. When they just give me $3 million, I actually have this becomes a winnable race. At this point, this is a winnable race. The problem I have is not getting the $500,000. I've done it before. I've raised $500,000 twice already running for governor. The problem is getting it all from New Yorkers. About half my money comes from out of state. So we have to get all from in-state. And the second piece is I have to make sure I have 5,000 donors. I have under 2,000 right now. So I've got to be able to get about another 3,500 or so more donors in New York State. Those two things become a challenge. But whenever I get it, that's when the money kicks in. If I get it before April, which is my goal, is to raise $500,000 before April. If I do that, oh my God, I'll have $3 million for ballot access. Easy day, cakewalk.
Okay. So there was a mix there of, well, I've got a winnable path, and then also perhaps not. That's kind of how I took it.
True.
And
You're right.
But let me ask, if the Republicans, because the Republican Party is they're one of the big two dominant parties in the United States. I realize perhaps not in New York so much.
Yep.
If they can't make it, how does an independent actually make it where a major party cannot? I'm having trouble understanding that one.
I'll explain it. Because the major parties have spent the past 40 years, maybe or so, 20 to 40 years, demonizing each other. So Democrats will simply not vote for Republican, period. They just won't. Republicans won't vote for Democrat. They just won't do it. They would rather vote for nobody or anybody else. And I'll give you some examples. Right here in New York State, Mamdani. When New Yorkers did not like the establishment, they didn't vote Republican. They went no, because New York City is 6-1 Democrat to Republican. The state is not as bad. The city is 6-1. So when they went, well, we don't like the establishment, what they do? They went further left. They voted for a Democratic Socialist. The Republican in New York State, in New York City, is a guy named Curtis Sliwa, or was. I know him. I like him. He's a good guy. He got 7% of the vote, DL. 7%. Not 17, not 70. 7. Across New York State, only 23% of the voters are Republican. And what does that mean? That's the ceiling of the Republican Party. They cannot go higher, right? They can't do it. So that's why they cannot win. An independent can. Independent does not have a ceiling. An independent will easily get independents, which is the second largest group in my state. Right? It's Democrats, independents, Republicans are the third largest party in my state. So they can easily get the independents because they're independent. They will get a bunch of Republicans who are pissed off. I know that from New York City. And then get Democrats who are pissed off. I know that because when I ran, 30% of the people who voted for me were registered Democrats. So independents can gather from both sides, plus get the independent votes. I also know that from Nebraska. A guy named Dan Osborne ran for U.S. Senate. Independent, good guy. I know him. He got 48% of the vote. There is no way a Democrat could have got 48% of the vote. Democrat might have got 25%. In Utah, McMullen ran a couple years before him. He got 40% of the vote. A Democrat could never get 40% of the vote in Utah. Why? It's 4-1 in Utah, Republican to Democrat. So a Democrat could never get 40% in Utah. So the evidence is there that independents can break through because they don't have a ceiling. That's the reason.
So is the independent its own party in New York? Because I know that you guys' party and the ballots are just a bit different than, say, other states. For instance, I was reading an article from, what was it, the Binghamton homepage.
Binghamton.
Binghamton. Okay. You can tell I don't live up there.
You're not a New Yorker. It's fine. I don't expect it.
But I think it was there that I was reading that you'll be on the ballot for We the People and Libertarian. Is that correct? But you're going to be running as an independent. So kind of explain really quickly for people outside of New York exactly how all that fits. Because here in Florida, independent is actually a party. So a lot of people will register independent thinking they're just like, I don't want to be part of a party, but then they actually end up becoming part of or registered with the party.
That is why New York State made that against the law. It is illegal to put independent or independence or independent in your party name in New York State for that exact reason. The New York State said, we have a problem. I got it. A law. That'll fix it. And of course we did that. So we passed the law. So that can't happen in New York State. It's actually officially no party affiliate. right? But
Mhm.
people call themselves. So if you're independent, no party affiliate, no, that's what it is. The problem is in New York State, you cannot become a party, a recognized party in New York State, unless your candidate, who is either a governor or presidential candidate, is able to get on the ballot
Mhm.
and then get either 130,000 votes or 2%, whichever is higher. That once you achieve that goal, you then become a party. According to that, we don't have any independent. We don't have any other parties. So We the People is officially not a party, and Libertarians are officially not a party.
Mhm.
That's why I'm running as an independent, because they will not allow me to have party status until either those committees, they call it now political committees.
Mhm.
So, or if any of those political committees achieve that goal with a candidate, they will then become a party. So I will have two lines on the ballot. In New York State, we have what's called fusion voting. Other states can do it, but most don't. I think only about 8 states can do it. New York State does it all the time, which means as many parties as you get listed on the ballot. 3, 4, 5 times, doesn't matter. If I could get 4 party lines, I get listed 4 times. And all the votes together count towards my victory or my loss. That's how it works in New York State. So I will be listed twice on the ballot. So will the governor, and so will Lee Stefanik, who's running as Republican, because we do have 2 other parties in the state, but they're not really independent. They're puppet parties. So the Democratic Party and the Working Families Party, they just copy each other. Whatever Democrats do, Working Families does. And then the Republican Party and the Conservative Party, they just copy each other, whatever the one does. So they'll have two, and I'll also have 2. The Libertarian Party and We the People Party. We the People is RFK Jr.'s former party.
Okay, gotcha. I'm going to go back to, you said that you were talking about you only run as governor, and you were like, hey, look, I live here. I'm a New Yorker. This is where my business is. So I can respect all of that. My question is, why not run for, say, state assembly? And before you answer,
Hear that all the time.
let me throw out some details here that I think are relevant to how you may answer this. Okay. Currently, they have 102 Democrats, 47 Republicans. And then I was digging up, you mentioned Zoran Mamdani, who recently won the New York City mayor.
My assemblyman.
He's a Democrat, but he's also affiliated with the Democratic Socialist, as are about 7 or so other assembly members. So it seems more than just money, but he also had at least some level of support there. Whereas it seems like whether you run as independent, Republican, Libertarian, whatever you're trying to run as, if it's not Democrat, it seems like you have an uphill battle, significantly more for governor than perhaps maybe assembly. Thinking,
So
it's
let
smaller.
me give you all of those. When it comes to him having some support, he has some support. Don't get me wrong, he has some support. He raised a total of about $3 million or $4 million on his own, and that's not bad. I wish I raised $3 or $4 million, but when Cuomo raises $20 million, you need that extra 12 million so that you can actually be able to defeat him. So yes, the man is skillful. I had him on my show 2 years ago, and I interviewed him, and I told the GOP how he's going to be a player back then. I knew he was. He's a good candidate. I don't want to take his candidacy away. He's a good candidate, absolutely, right? But here is the reason why I don't want to run for whatever city council, whatever. It's a waste of time and money and energy. And I'm tired of libertarians doing that shit for nothing. Right? So now I'm going to go run for whatever, city council or something, or whatever the thing is you want me to run, assembly, whatever. I'm going to beg libertarians for money. I'm going to go up and down saying, give me this, support me for that, so I can lose and gain nothing. So I threw all that money away, all my time away. And let's assume by some miracle you're correct, and enough libertarians rush in and they give me enough money, or somehow I'm lucky and I win. Great. What change do I make? None. You just said it. I'm 1 out of 102. No, nothing's going to happen. I'm going to make no change whatsoever. I'm just going to be up there and start talking trash and have a job now that I don't even fucking want. I have a job now. I make money now. Right. I'm a business owner. It's what I do. I'm not looking for a job. I'm not looking for a win. This isn't a vanity run, which is half the goddamn runs in this party. It's not that. And that's why I get so annoyed. Larry, run for this and win. For what? So I can have a job? So I can pretend and be all super, oh, look how awesome I am? No, it's a waste of time and money. And I'm going to sit there and bug you for no impact.
running for a governor of New York does something very important. Very important. Number one, it's the only way to ballot access in my state. The Libertarian Party nationally, the only thing that it actually has as a real asset is ballot access. 50-state ballot access is about a $30 million asset. I'm not making that up. It is a $30 million asset that no other party has. And if I don't get it in New York State, nobody else will. Let me say it again. Anyone's got their head in the clouds. Nobody else will get it. Not because someone else couldn't get it. There are other people in the state who could do it. They would never do it. They would never take the year of punishment and not being able to work and having to go into debt and get disrespected and attacked all goddamn for a full year just to get ballot access. They would never do it. And they're not even popular enough. I poll right now at 8%. Right now. I poll at 6% in 2022. With that type of polling, as you probably know, if nothing changes, about half of what people poll at is what independents actually get. Have people change their mind when they get there. That's 4% of the vote. That's all I need for ballot access. I'm already, as of now, if nothing changes, I will get ballot access for the Libertarian Party and We the People Party in New York State. That right there gives the Libertarian Party a $30 million asset to give to someone else, to work with someone else, to get more people in, to raise money, all the things possible. Oh, but Larry, run for assembly, whatever. I do that, get my ass kicked, change nothing, waste a year of my life, waste all your money and time. For what? So I can do a vanity project? No, thank you. I don't want to do this. This needs to be done. That's the reality. I'll go one step further. With matching funds, this becomes an actual winnable race. If I win this thing, DL, think about this. If I win this thing, the entire nation changes overnight. That's not an exaggeration. There's no hyperbole. New York State will have a socialist mayor and a libertarian governor. Oh my God, what a change. The entire country will be like, my God, we can all change and shift. This next year is going to be the year of the independent, whether that's libertarian, green, DSA, whatever. It's going to happen. And that's why it matters.
Gotcha. So speaking of winning and being a libertarian governor with a Democratic socialist mayor, how would you be prepared to work with him? And by the way, whatever number of Democratic socialists would get reelected or elected up in 2026 as well. Are you prepared to work with him? Because I feel like, just based on my knowledge of the Democratic Socialist, they have nothing in common that you can work with him. Or maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, no, there actually is. Again, I know him. He's actually a true believer, if that makes any sense.
Okay.
Right. Some people become more, socialist or whatever, because that's the way the wind is blowing and they just want to say they are so they can get votes. It's a common thing. Many people who act, and I mean this act, they act like leftists or socialists. They don't actually believe anything. They just go, oh, the people like to hear that. I'll say that because that'll get me elected. He's an actual true believer. He actually wants, he believes that socialism is the answer. But number one, he can be turned because he's a true believer. And number two, his outcomes are very similar to my outcomes that we want. It's not that I don't want free or cheap buses. I think that's an amazing idea. I would hope that we could have free or cheap buses. We're paying taxes for them. That would be nice. I like that idea. But his way of getting there is impossible. Not just that, he just wants free for free. And I'll cover two pieces that hopefully will make sense. If someone says, Larry, don't you want free buses? I want free or cheap. People say, why? When you've done homework on free busing, in some places, free busing fails. Why would it fail? Not because of the money. They just print more money. It fails because of loitering issues. Sometimes people, if it's a free bus, depending upon the area you're in, a bunch of people just get in the bus and stay there because it's free. So because it's free, you get people who loiter on the bus, and now the buses can't be used by people who really need them. Mm-hmm. If that happens, that's when it fails. Now, will that happen in New York? I don't know. So we might want to test that, do some homework on that. You might want to make it cheap, which means maybe like, I don't know, $1 or 50 cents, a quarter, whatever the case may be. You might go, Larry, is it 50 cents going to stop loitering? It does. I mean, we've seen it. It's true. If you just charge anything and someone has to pay, it lessens loitering. So we may want them cheap. And I'm okay with them being cheap and or free up. That's not a problem. The problem is, do taxpayers pay for it or not? And does it actually work or not?
Now, what do I mean by that? I've already talked about many ways you can raise money for the MTA and buses without having to raise taxes at all. It doesn't be a taxpayer system. You could make it a privatized system if you wanted to. That's option one. Or two, just get it paid for by the private market, even if it's run by the government, if people aren't ready for that. And why do I say that? As a libertarian, would I want it run by a private system? Of course. Buses used to be private, right? When Rosa Parks went to the back of the bus and then went to the front of the bus, the reason why it worked is because she boycotted a private company. That's why it worked, right? That is the reason why it worked. It was a private company. If it was government, this would have put her in jail. It wouldn't have worked, right? Her boycott only works in the private world. So of course I'd want that. The reality of it is New York City is simply not ready for that, right? It just isn't, which is why I talk about leasing naming rights to bridges. Libertarians love to go, why just privatize the bridge? Because they're just libertarian people who just want to, they want to virtue signal on how libertarian they are. I don't care. The reality of it is my city's never going to privatize the bridges. The people will not accept that. I live in a city that just elected Mamdani. You're talking about privatize the bridges. What planet do you live on? Not my planet, obviously.
But
so what could I do?
Make that argument back to you and say, well, okay, they're not going to privatize the bridges, but Larry, you're a libertarian. You have libertarian ideas, even though you might be flexible in saying we're so far left. If we move a little bit away from that, that's better than going further left. Couldn't they basically say the same thing? Hey, they just elected Zoran Mamdani. They're not going to elect you.
Of course you can say that. And they do. There's every argument you want to. Of course there is. And at the same time, while you're saying that, people are telling me, oh, Stefanis going to win. The Republican's going to win. So they say that I can't win, but then say the Republican can win. You hear what you just said? You said, Larry, you can't win. Oh, but the Republican who literally hates him and calls him names and insults him because he's Muslim, that guy's going to win.
Right.
So that person, but I'm not. Him and I have conversations. Him and I can talk. Him and I, as I just said, I want the same thing that he wants, different ways. The Republican wants him to go away tomorrow. Literally, they've been saying things like, go back to go back home to Africa, because he was born in Uganda. They're saying that, and you're telling me that I'm the guy? Come on. All right.
Yeah, that's fair. Let me ask, you have a relationship, even if minor, with Zoran Mamdani. What about some of the either current assembly members or potential future assembly members? Are you on a good working basis with some of them? Because it seems like you're going to need it.
Yeah, generally speaking, with the assembly, no. And the reason why I said that is it's irrelevant. I don't mean to be cruel about it or flippant, but it's true. The assembly right now in New York State is a supermajority Democrat. I'm not going to control the Senate. I will have zero control of them. I just won't. And the speaker and the leaders, they will hate me. And I actually hate them too. They're terrible human beings. Andrea Stewart Cousins, she's a terrible person. She's a horrible grifter. She does nothing but destroy the state. She's a terrible human being. I will move to get her removed immediately just by personally attacking her until we realize what a piece of garbage she is. And I'll say it public. She's a terrible person. But it doesn't matter. I will never be able to control that. Now, the Senate, I can. The Senate is closer. If I get 5 to 10 people in the Senate to switch parties, that is my goal. If I have to switch parties to become independent, either we the people, if that leans closer to them, or libertarian, if that leans closer, I don't care. It'll be a coalition of independents, about 5 to 10, maybe 7, depending upon how the next election goes in that area. I will control the Senate via swing vote. That's how I control the Senate. Why does that matter? If I don't control either and they pass terrible bills, I will veto them and they will override me. I become a lame duck. If I control the Senate, those bills never get to me, and therefore they're stopped in the Senate. So they're just done. So I have to block them in the Senate. Now, what does that mean? That means I will have to, in reality, go back and forth and negotiate with them. Will I lose some battles? Yes, of course. I'm in a deep blue state. Will I win some battles? Yes, I'll have to, or I'll let them get nothing done. I literally will not sign a budget. I will shut the entire government down if need be. I will get things that I want. I can't get everything I want, but I will get certain things and things will move forward. Why? Because if not, I will shut the entire government down. I will just not pass a budget. I don't care. We're going to fix the government one way or another. I will get things and I'll negotiate via the Senate. Does that make sense?
Yes. So you get elected. Let's run with that.
I love that. Then, I like that. Keep going, Dio.
Right.
We're good.
So you get elected and you're now the first, I believe, libertarian to be governor of New York. by the end of the term, what would you say would be the how you should be judged? What
Yep.
looks like success to you? And I'm gonna
Yes.
look for countable things because I'm
Yes. And I'll give you one right away. I've already said it before.
Right.
I judge my first 4 years
Mhm.
by one thing and one thing only. Did I stop the bleeding of people leaving my state? Because that is the ultimate measure if I'm successful or not. Right now, New York State loses about 300,000 people every single year. They just keep going. We just recently lost a congressman. We would have lost more, but they changed how they count people. Now they count migrants. They didn't count migrants before. If they stop counting migrants and things don't change, we'll probably lose one or two more. That because we're losing so many people, right? For every about 750,000 people that we lose a congressperson, give or take. It's about that, and we're losing over 1 million in the last 4 years. They just keep leaving. So if I have stopped that, I won. So if there's not 300,000 people leaving, there's about zero. Around zero is victory for me. That is how I would define it. I said that back in 2018. We lose people in 2018. And I said it in 2022. And I'll say it now. Stopping the bleeding of people leaving my state is the number one goal, or should be the number one goal of any governor. We are losing, according to the IRS, about $20 billion per year due to migration. That's IRS numbers. When you count in the exodus from the lockdowns, we've lost about half $500 billion due to migration. If you count lockdowns, now some of the lockdown people came back, so it still is about $20 billion a year.
Do voters in New York see it that same way as
no?
Hey, so how do you win if that's your number one goal, but doesn't sound like it's the voters' number one goal? How do you get them to vote for you?
Yeah, because the reason why people vote for me at all, and I've heard it all the time, when people vote for me, remember, I've run before and I've already gotten votes. I've already gotten 100,000 votes.
Sure.
People will tell me things like, Larry, I voted for you because you answered my question. Larry, I voted for you because you had a plan for X. That's why they'll do it. Because right now what's happening in New York State is everybody's tired. And everywhere I go, everyone's tired of if you look at my two current people running, Elise Stefanik and Kathy Hochul, the current governor, this is their plans. Here is Kathy Hochul's plan. Trump is bad, more money. That's her plan. Now, when it comes to Elise Stefanik, here's her plan. Mom Donnie's bad, more money. That's it. Or Michael, maybe more cops. Maybe. That's their plan. There's no answer. When someone comes to me and says, Larry, I can't get this done, I give them a policy. I give them an answer. When someone says, Larry, I'm about to lose my farm, I go, could you imagine if any local farmer in New York State was immune from all federal regulatory bodies as long as they sold only within New York State? What? Yeah. Imagine if I treated you as a small business owner, and then immediately I said, if you're a small business owner, you may build whatever you want. You just may build whatever you want on your farm whenever you choose to. If you want to build a retail site, a wholesale site, a manufacturing site, go ahead. Oh my God, change everything. They'll never say that. They'll never bring that up. Larry, we don't have jobs up here, and the energy prices are high. Okay, why don't we take our area that we have in New York State? For those of you who don't know, New York State is a border state, but it's Canadian border. We have the St. Lawrence River, north country of New York State. Why don't we put 3 or 4 nuclear power plants on the St. Lawrence River, and then each county that's there gets a plebiscite. If they want it, they get the nuclear power plant or more of them, and it's half co-op owned by the residents of that county, which would bring in jobs, bring in people, and allow for cash to come in from that nuclear power plant so that people who own it locally will have some voting rights on it. Voting rights, so to say, the cash coming in, a certain percentage, whatever that number is, will go into, say, a community bank to support local businesses, or a check, like Alaska does. When you give everybody a check, you could create a privatized, non-taxable, localized UBI if you wanted to. Up to you if you want to, based upon that. And if you have that, let's bring in data centers. Let's bring in blockchain mining. Why not? We're all benefiting from it locally to the best of our ability, which will bring more people in. People who want to benefit from that, people who want that, people coming to the county. You do all those types of things. Now, you may say, Larry, I don't like that first idea. Larry, why do I care about farmers? Larry, why do I care about energy? You personally may not care about that. But here's the thing. I have an answer. So now when I'm on a debate stage, when I'm talking to these people, they have to have an answer. They can't go, well, it's because Hochul's evil. Well, it's because Stefanik's evil. It's because the Republicans are bad. It's because Democrats are bad. It doesn't work when I'm out there saying, here's an idea. Either tell me my idea is bad and how you're going to fix it, or say, yeah, good idea. But if you just go, no, people aren't going to hear that.
Right.
People vote for me because I have an idea.
And it's funny because I basically said this very thing about Zoran Mamdani. I was criticizing the Republicans. I was like, look, you guys are worried about like him eating rice with his fingers. And I was like, nobody cares about that. Like
Nobody cares.
Like that, like, yeah, that might make for some social media clicks and likes.
Yep.
Mostly from people that don't like him and who don't live in New York, presumably.
Yep.
Right. But outside of that, I was like, there's not really much of an answer for the voters. But what I saw out of Mamdani, and the first video of him that I saw was his rent freeze video where he comes out of the water and he's all like, I'm going to freeze your rent. And I was like, damn, something's going to happen with this dude.
He's good.
Because he was charismatic. And even though I don't like his answer, he did have an answer. He said, we have a rent problem. We have a landlord problem.
Yes.
And that's factual.
True. He's not wrong.
Whether or not you agree with his path to resolve it, it is a factual issue. So I can very much.
But here's why they do it. It's not because the Republicans are stupid. That's not the case. It's not. It's because all they're worried about is raising money. I'm not joking when I say this. So if I give you a plan and then people get mad at my plan, they may not give me money. But I know that Republicans want to give money. So what I do is I then rally my base and I go, he's a socialist. He's a Marxist. Stop the Marxists. Republicans go, oh my God, Marxist. And they write checks and they do credit cards and they give money. So the concept here wasn't that they wanted to win. They were never going to win. They knew that. Republicans are going to win in my state. That's not a thing. Republicans only win locally in my state. Anything big, they can't win. It just, the state's too blue. And they know that. I'm not the only guy who's figured this out, right? I wish I was so smart. I'm the only guy who knows this, right? No, they figured it out too. But what they do know is if they yell culture war stuff, look, he's with his hands, that Republicans get scared and start writing checks. This is a grift to raise money. That's all it is for Stefanik. That's all. She knows she's not. Everyone I talk to knows she's not going to win. She's not going to win. It's impossible in my state. Why is she raising so much money? So she can take about half of that money at the end of her run, put it into a PAC. I'm not joking. It's legal. And then she'll become the head of that PAC and she'll pay herself a salary so that she can survive for a couple years until they make her whatever ambassador to Brazil or whatever they do, right? Ambassador to, I don't know, Italy, wherever she wants to go. They'll make her ambassador to someplace, Poland, whatever she likes. She'll go over there and she'll do, national stuff, what she wouldn't do anyway. She spends her past 10 years in DC anyway. She doesn't care about New York State. So she'll pack up and do that. And most of them do it. And Lee Zeldin did it. Lee Zeldin raised about $11 million when he ran 2022, put about $5 million to a PAC, paid himself a salary until they made him head of the EPA. Done. This is a massive grift. Every Republican who's in my state who's giving Republicans money is literally throwing their money away in a grift.
All right, let's shift to some policies. Since we were talking about policies, I know that you just said, hey, my number one priority is stop people from leaving the state. But you also said, hey, we need to identify policies and talk to people and have answers.
Sure.
Of the policies that are on your site, which are the top ones that you believe can reach voters that they're going to look and go, hey, I'm a socialist, or hey, I'm a Republican, or whatever. But man, that is a really good idea. I can envision that working here in New York. What are some of the top ones?
I think the biggest one is the one I've had to come up with because New York State's so broken, which is what I call the NIST, the NYSST. It's the New York State Social Trust. This piece, this is basically a trust or a fund for the state. So it's similar to a sovereign fund for the state. Alaska has one, Norway has one, Singapore has one. And what happens is that trust makes money. After it makes money, it can pay for things, right? So socialism is awesome once you get, capitalism to pay for it, right? Other people's money is always the best way, right? So you get that to happen in your state, and now you can pay for things. One of the things you can pay for here is education. Why does that matter in New York State? Well, two reasons. Reason number one, if this fund pays for education in New York State, school tax goes away. I don't know about your state, Florida, but in New York State, about half of the property tax is school tax. Depending on where you are in a state, it's around half. So that will cut your property tax in half. Now, if you're living in New York State and you're thinking about leaving, maybe you're a senior and you're deciding when you leave, oh my God, cutting your property tax in half is massive. That right there would change a lot of people. So off the bat, half property tax. But more important than that, once this is paying for education, there's no need for federal funds, no need for state funds, which means no strings attached. What does that mean? That means local people actually run their own school district. Imagine if local people own their own school district. So what does that mean? You could actually have civics. You could have Sharpe. You could have home ec. You could have Future Farmers of America. You can have whatever you want in your school district. Well, Larry, we can have that now. No, you cannot. That's why it's not there anymore. What you can have is two things: ELA, English, and math. Why? That's what's on the federal test. That's how they get paid. That's why you get that. Take the strings away, have whatever you want. I don't really care what you want. Educate your kids. Crazy thing. You might not know this, DL, but most parents love their kids. It's true. It is. Sure. Hot take. And not just that. Most parents want to educate their kids. I know, hot take, but I'm going to say it. I'm going to go on a limb and I'm going to say that most parents love their kids and want to educate them. So if you give them the opportunity to do so, they usually will. Right now, New York State spends about $36,000 or more now per kid. It is the most in the world. Not just in the States. It's the most in the world. The exception of Luxembourg, which is not really a country. But in any case, it's the most in the world. And what are our outcomes? Mediocre. We tend to be about the middle of the country, and America is not even the top 10 in the world. And we spend the most in the world. I will change that to about $18,000 per year per student. How can I lower that? Because one of the biggest issues we have, believe it or not, is bloat. Yes, is bloat. Of course it is. And why is that bloat? Administrators for state and federal reasons. So once I give $18,000 per student per kid with no strings attached, why do we need all those administrators? We don't. Larry, our administrator is that much. Yes, the average teacher in New York State makes about $70,000 to $80,000 a year, give or take, which in most parts of my state is a living wage. Not all, but most parts it is. Our teachers are doing relatively well compared to other teachers, doing very well compared to other states. But it's a decent job in New York State. It's not a bad job being a teacher. You get your summers off. A lot of teachers take side gigs in the summer to make extra cash. It's not a bad gig in New York State. But administrators make double. There are administrators in my state that make $400,000 or $500,000 a year. Yes, and they don't even see a kid. They're in a building far away, full of administrators who just do administrative things that don't matter whatsoever. It is a disaster. It is terrible. They'll start going away. So that starts saving money. So that one thing right there saves money on property tax, gives you control of the school district, gives you better kids and happier kids and happier parents. But I go one step further than that. Once that happens, $18,000 goes to the district per kid. I don't care where the kid lives, only what district they're in. So if you want to send your kid to different districts, I don't care. I'm not requiring you. At that point, there literally is no reason for me to decide where your kid lives or residency issues. I don't care. You do whatever you want. You want to get in a bus and send your kid someplace? Okay, I don't care. But I'll keep going. On top of that, we have a $6,000 credit if you want to homeschool your kid or if you want to private school your kid. Why only $6,000? $6,000 goes to you for a private school or for homeschool, but the rest stays in the district. Why? I want the kids to use the district facilities. So if you homeschool your kid or private school your kid can still be in the math club or on the football team or go to the prom or whatever. I don't want to break up communities. So communities are together regardless where the kids get educated. On top of that, we shift that, and now people will be happy putting kids into trades now. The kids in our country don't go into trades for many reasons. The biggest one is because of federal funds. What? Larry, you're blaming the federal government on that? Yes, because the federal government actually gives money to schools based upon college placement. So that's why high schools push all our kids into college for no reason. I'm not saying you shouldn't go to college. You should go to college because you have a reason to go to college, not just because someone tells you to go to college. I don't know how it is in Florida, but in New York, most of the guidance counselors go, oh, you don't want to go to a trade school. That's for dumb kids. or don't go to trade school. That's for the bad kids. They actually say words like that. So they discourage you from going to trades. I don't know if it's in Florida. That's how it works in New York State. Well, no, you should go to trade school if you want to go to trade school. You should go to college if you have a plan to go to college. That's totally fine if you want to, but they're discouraged from that. And so that one thing, the NIST, solves so many problems.
Okay, so let me be a difficult voter for a moment.
Okay.
And you've just told me, you're like, look, I got this plan for education. We're going to reduce the cost. We're going to have this trust that's going to help fund it, so we don't need to take tax money, which sounds great. But then I go, but wait a minute. If people are in their own districts and they're kind of making their own choices or doing different things in education, now we have a standardization problem, because I'm the kind of voter that says, well, I don't want somebody in this district learning something different than over in this district. So how do you resolve that? Because that is one of the biggest complaints that I hear whenever you talk about localizing or decentralizing education.
Yep.
That's a big one.
So I'd say to the voter, so you're saying that right now the system of centralized control in the state and the federal level is working now? That's all I would say. Well, no, it's not. You know it's not. You know that education is getting worse. You know that we're losing across the entire country. You know we're losing across the entire world. The Department of Education, the federal level, came into play about 1980, give or take. This one started to have some teeth, about 1980. Do you think our education is better or worse than 1980?
Right.
And they always go, well. And I say, stop talking. I tell them that. Stop talking. You're making stuff up. You know that it's worse. Everyone in this room, if I'm in a room or listening, everyone knows it's worse. So please stop fooling yourself and thinking that the centralization system right now is better. It's not. What am I telling you? Here is a system where you can control it. And if you think the guys across the county aren't learning the right stuff, don't put your kid in that school. Put him in your school. That's learning the right thing. If you don't like what they're learning in your school, guess what? Join the board. You can actually change it. There won't be unfunded mandates. There won't be strings attached. You can change it to educate your kid as you see fit. You don't like that? Great. Homeschool your kid. I'm giving you choices for your kid. If you're worried about what the other kid is learning across the county, I have an idea. Worry about your own kid. Let those parents worry about their kids, and you worry about yours. You don't get to decide that what some other kid learned. Let them decide. They will get themselves ahead the best they possibly can. And let's say they're wrong. Let's say your fear comes to pass and those guys over at that district, they have a terrible outcome. Okay, here's what happens right now. If there's a bad idea, and we saw it in New York State when it came to Common Core in New York State, when there's a bad idea right now in a current system, the entire state is punished. An entire generation is destroyed. We saw that happen during lockdowns. We saw that happen for Common Core. We watched New York State kids not know how to do math. And the problem is because they decided that Common Core had to be implemented throughout the entire state for everybody. Exactly what you're talking about. Everybody gets it no matter what. And what happened? Here's the reality. Some kids actually learn better on Common Core. It's a small percentage. Those small percent of kids did well, but everyone else suffered. To this day, I know my kids went through that. Instead, what if one district decides Common Core and everyone sees after 2 years, it's a disaster. So no one does it. I just saved every district in the entire state. Or the reverse. We use Common Core. It's amazing. Everybody's rocking and rolling. Then we can all adopt it. So yes, will there be errors? Of course. No system's perfect. Because you pass a law or centralize it doesn't make it great. It just makes it, everyone controls it. When you do it this way, if errors are made, and errors will always be made, it's in one area for a short time and it can be repaired. When it is done the way it is now, once an error is made, it devastates a generation. So you're telling me you would rather devastate a generation or have a problem that we can all solve together? I like number two.
When you're frank like that with a voter, what's their response? Are they like, well, okay, you're making a good point? Or
One of two things. If they say, yeah, that makes sense. Okay. I got that person. But there are some people who are never going to support me. I know that. They are just, here's the issue. When you are independent, libertarian, green, whatever you might be, here's how it works. And it's unfair, but if I accept that that's true, you must be perfect. If you are a Democrat or Republican, here's what people do. Okay, he's a Democrat. Is he better than a Republican? That's it. I can have 45 things you disagree upon, You can hate me on certain things. Oh, but he's there, so he's better than a Republican. I'll vote Democrat. If he's a Republican, same thing. Oh, he's better than Democrat. Fine. If you're independent, they're looking for a reason to say no.
Mhm.
Literally, if I'm a libertarian, they can love 10 things that I do, but one they don't like. Yeah, I don't like that guy. Done. But say they're Republican. They'll find 5 things they hate about the Republican, 5 they like, vote for them. So they're only 50% on board for a Republican or Democrat, they'll vote for them. They're 90% on board with me, they won't. That kind of person I cannot win. And I'm okay with that. I don't have to win 51% of the vote. I don't have to win everybody. I have to win about 40% of the people who vote. That's it. That means out of a state of about 18, 19 million people, I need about 2.5 million people to say yes. That's it. 2 million, 2.5 million people to say yes. So I need 1 in 9 to say yes. This idea of, well, you can't get that person. I don't need them.
Gotcha.
They don't vote for me anyway. I don't
Right.
need them. I don't
Okay.
have to convert everybody.
Right.
And I
Focus on the
can't
ones
convert
that you know.
everybody. So I don't
Focus on the
care.
ones-
It's fine.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, so we've talked about some policy. We talked about New York. I saw the other day that Mom Donnie was invited to the White House. President Trump seems all chummy with them. No big
Oh, yeah.
surprise there, in my opinion. Conversation for a different day. How are you prepared to work with the federal government? Because as the governor of New York, you will in some way cross paths with
Of course.
President, whoever, well, in 26 it would be President Trump. Well, no, wait a minute. I'm
Yeah.
it's so
Will be.
early. I shouldn't be doing math, but
you're right.
You're
You're right. Yeah. No, look, here's the reality of Trump.
All right, I'm totally. I need more coffee. You're gonna work with Trump at some way. How?
I'm with you. Yes. Here's the reality, and Curtis Lee was said it. Curtis Lee knows Trump. And I know who he is. I've only met Trump one time, and he wasn't president then. I met him a long time ago when he was in The Apprentice. And he would remember me. It was in a line of people.
Right.
When I say I met him, I mean like I shook his hand along with a bunch of other people. I'm sure he does not remember me at all. But that's the only time, and that was probably, I don't know, 15 years ago. He was still in The Apprentice back then. Anyway, so I don't know him personally at all. But he's a deal maker. What makes some people unhappy about Trump, and I mean this for Republicans, is they go, well, he didn't do this. That's not conservative. That's not Republican. At his core, Donald Trump is just a New York State real estate developer. That's really what he is. That's why he pumps up. It's the greatest of everything. It's the best ever. That's why he talks that way. That's how you get people to buy your building, right? That's how you get people to invest, by going, it's the best no one's ever seen. He's been talking that way for 70 years or how old he is. He's been talking forever. That's why he is that way. He's a deal maker. He will sacrifice to make a deal. Curtis Lee said that when they asked him, how do you deal with that? And they were like, we're going to fight Trump. Stefana tried fighting Trump. She got her ass kicked. You deal with Trump. You make a deal. That's how you do it. And you try to make a deal to where you look good and he looks good. He walks away saying he won. You walk away saying you won. That's literally what Gavin Newsom did. Because Gavin Newsom, as bad of a governor as he is, he's not stupid.
Right.
He's a bad governor, but he's not dumb. When there was all those fires and problems in California, what did he do? He went to Trump, shook his hand, made a deal. That's how you do it. This guy is, without a doubt, a transactional president. That's what he does. You deal with him. You make a deal. Trump, you want to win? Here's what I'm going to do. I want to win. Please do this for me. And he will say yes. He does it. I'll give you his executive with the Libertarian Party. He made a deal with the Libertarian Party. Mm-hmm. He said, let me come to your convention and pitch. And if you guys support me, I'll free Ross.
Right.
A bunch of libertarians did. I'm not saying I'm happy about that, but I'm just saying it's true. A bunch of libertarians did. And he freed Ross. Transactional. He's not all of a sudden a libertarian now, right? Now he's libertarian. No, he's not. He made a deal. Give me X, I'll give you Y. Done. That's what he did. So that's how you deal with him in that regard. Now, here's the part that they'll be most unhappy about. Most of my policies are about decoupling from the federal government. They will not be happy about that. Their biggest issue will be don't decouple. Why? The federal government actually controls us, not because they're going to send troops in and arrest people. That's not how they control us. They control us through cash. Mm-hmm. Every state across America, the average state, about 1/3 of their budget is actually federal dollars. New York State gets a $20 billion bailout from the federal government every year.
Wow.
Every year. So we get bailed out every year. The answer for New York State governors isn't, okay, we're going to have a new plan. Their answer is the same thing. More federal money. More federal money. That's always their answer. So, yeah. So I hope I answered that question.
So, do you have any examples of a deal that you think you might be able to make that would work?
What he'd be upset about, I think, my assumption is education.
Okay.
Because once with an education plan, if I put it into play, what would happen immediately is he would realize he's not going to be able to have control. So I'd probably have to give data over to him to make that happen because he'll want data. And what the federal government wants more than anything else is data so they can decide who gets what by when, all that kind of good stuff. So I'd probably have to agree to have some kind of central repository for information in New York State that the federal government could somehow access, which is not libertarian, but how else would make it happen? I'd probably have something like that so that he could access the information. Not just that, nuclear power. He's not going to want, the federal government's going to stop me or try to stop me from making nuclear power because that's what it does. I will ignore them. I have to make a deal. So the deal probably would be some type of taxation on the energy is the assumption I have to make a deal to get some kind of cut. That's my assumption. So again, would I like it? No. But would I get it done? Yes, I would. So I'd have to make a deal. And libertarians will get mad at me. You're not pure enough, Larry Sharpe. You're not pure enough. Okay, come fix my state then with your big mouth. You won't. You'll just virtual signal. That's all you do is virtual signal. I'm going to go fix my state. You can be the most libertarian in the world. You win. I'll get you a t-shirt. Nice. I'm going to go fix my state.
So within your state, let me just ask you really quickly, what is the response from libertarians and the Libertarian Party? Are they generally behind you because they live there?
No.
Because I live in Florida. I have no idea what you're working on.
No.
They're just as bad as all the rest?
Libertarian Party in New York is broken from the lockdowns, right? The lockdowns crushed my state. I wish it didn't, but the party was broken. The lockdowns, and we had the worst thing, which was we had ballot access. We had the ring.
Right.
We had it, and we were starting to work. And then, of course, because we're libertarians, we fell into a civil war and started yelling, "You're not libertarian enough." And I had to go off. I was $100,000 in debt after I'd done it, so I had to go off and survive with my family and such. And they decided to fight amongst themselves and make things terrible, which is what libertarians do. And then the rules changed because they saw us actually winning even through that. And they destroyed our party. Then the lockdowns came. They destroyed us even more. And they shadow banned me to make sure that I couldn't get the word out. I mean, it's just 3-4 things in a row that just devastated New York State Libertarian Party. So Libertarian Party in New York State is broken. I'm not trying to be mean or cruel. I'm just being clear that it broke us badly. I'm barely putting it back together with people who are like, oh, Larry's doing stuff again. So there's some of that now coming back, but yeah. And then at least half the party just blames me because I didn't make magic happen. It's my fault, I guess, whatever. So half of them blame me, think I'm a bad guy because Larry didn't make magic happen again. And they're right, I didn't. I got sued off the ballot in 2022. I raised $500,000 and it failed. It was 2022 was a disaster campaign. And instead of people going, well, Larry tried his best, and some people say that. There's a chunk of libertarians who go, well, he sucks. He didn't make magic happen again. So he's terrible. And whatever. If you've watched me do this, I don't rely upon the party. I don't. I assume that I'm on my own. I assume I must build my own team. I assume I must raise my own money. I assume all those things. When a Libertarian Party comes and helps out, I'm happy. They sometimes do, but I don't expect it. We don't have the infrastructure in my state to really support a candidate as well as we could. If that were true, I wouldn't be the only guy doing this. I wouldn't be the only guy who could do this. If that makes any sense, right? So what happens generally is a little bit of this, and then we move on. I don't expect much support. I just keep going. The National Party does whatever it can. If it can't, whatever. What you find is many times people think Libertarian Party, in whether national or state or local, depending on where you are, has massive infrastructure like the Republicans, Democrats. And in some parts of our country, that's true. It depends where you are. New York State's been wrecked by the state. The state knew we were having power and they wrecked us. And because of that, we just don't have the infrastructure. Like I don't even have an affiliate in probably more than about 12 of my 62 counties. So I've got 50 that there's no affiliate. You can't, that's not even anyone to call.
Hmm.
Right. And and I'm not mad at them. It is what it is, right? The state went out of its way to wreck us, and it worked. They're powerful, and they wrecked us.
Right.
I'm trying to fight to fix it and to rectify that situation, and it's not easy.
Yeah, and and I don't want to beat up on the party, but I do think that one of the shortcomings of libertarians that are involved in the party, maybe not those who are outside of it doing their own work elsewhere. I think one of the shortcomings is kind of what you mentioned back when we were talking about you working with Trump, is not recognizing the lay of the land that you have to work with. So you're like, hey, look, I'm prepared to work with Trump because Trump is transactional. He likes making deals at his core.
Yes.
There are some things that I want to do that he's probably not going to like. I could possibly get around them if I have a deal to strike with him elsewhere. Right.
True.
Now, I want to get into a couple audience questions here or comments, because I going, tapping onto that same where you were like, hey, I might have to give up some information, stuff like that. Where was it? Here's, this is from Phil Abstract. I think one of my biggest concerns is the implementation and forcing of digital ID and CBDC, though haven't been hearing much about it lately. And I know that during COVID specifically, there was that COVID passport idea that was actually implemented in New York. So
not really implemented. It failed, but yes.
Right. But they got some backing from the government.
They did
actually, and the government was like, hey, they dangled it like a carrot. They're like, hey, if you'd like to open and you early before we let everybody else open and you sign on to this, well, then we'll let you open early. And it just didn't really pan out, which I think is a good thing. But how do you assuage the fears of not just libertarians, but anybody who would be concerned about handing over information or cooperating with government in a way that may open the door wider for the future?
Yeah, there's a couple things. What I talk about often, which often makes the left actually happy, is I speak often about any large things we're going to start building, having local co-op ownership. What I mean by that? Things like AI, things like CBDC, things like blockchain mining, things like that, right? Require energy. And in New York State, we don't have it right now. And our energy bills are soaring, right? They're going very high as they bring these in. So what should we be doing? I mentioned the idea of nuclear power plants. Make a nuclear power plant. 50% of that's owned locally by people, which gives them voting rights. They can decide, you know what? I don't like what this AI company is doing. I don't like what this blockchain company is doing. I don't like the government, doing X, Y, and Z. We're going to vote now and say, we're not going to give any power to it. No electricity to it. None. I'm not joking. That would be the power. We're not going to do it. We're just not going to do it. And as they do, or I'll give you another option. Instead, take the money that this power plant's making and hire lawyers to sue the state. Both work, right? Whatever seems to work for you. I'm giving local people control. Many of my policies give people who normally wouldn't have power. What I mean by that, that's one option of having local people have voting rights and or dollar rights from a nuclear power plant that can just keep generating tons of money, particularly if it's thorium, tons of cash. So they can go, government, no, we're going to make a local, we're going to make a local rule that we're not going to fund any, data centers. None. We're not going to fund them. Or we're not going to fund any blockchain people. What? None. We're not going to fund any of them. Oh my God, you can't do that. Well, then don't make a CBDC. Well, then don't enact this. Don't enact that. Don't do that. Right. Number one. So that's the first part, localized control. But there's more. The second piece is I want to enact an amendment to the New York State Constitution. And this has to be an amendment to the Constitution. The Constitution of New York State has to be amended to say that lockdowns in any way are unconstitutional, period. Why? It's based on the First Amendment. Most people, when they think about the First Amendment, think, oh, it's freedom of speech. True, it is. But it's also, as you know, I know you know, some people may not know, freedom of association, freedom of religion, freedom of the press, freedom to petition our government. Lockdowns stop all five of those. So by default, they're unconstitutional and may never be done. Never be done. The First Amendment doesn't say you have a First Amendment unless I'm scared. There's
Right.
no unless I'm scared in that. You just get them, period. That's how it works. Whether you're scared or not doesn't matter. If you just make a law, the governor will go, emergency. So no, we'll ignore the law. Make it a constitution amendment based upon the U.S. Constitution, governor really can't stop it. Now, why does that matter? Lockdowns are bad in general, but once you have that amendment, now what happens is you get to have a reason for people to sue the government anytime it does something like that. Anytime it mandates something, force you to do something, I now have, a cause, right, to actually sue the government, which right now you often don't. Now you do, right? You have a precedent and you have cause. So that amendment does both of those things. It allows you locally to have power and gives you a reason, a basis to sue when the government does something I hadn't thought of, right? Then the next lockdown they've decided, or banning or mandating they've decided that I haven't thought of yet, you now have a reason to sue them and stop them in court. And it's based on the First Amendment, so it can go to the Supreme Court. And that's the goal.
Gotcha.
So yes.
One more comment here. I thought this was a good one, and to end the comments on. I'm here because Larry. This is from Philip Vecchio, I think. I'm here because Larry did his best and is a vehicle to rebuild the liberty. It says movement in NYS. I presume they meant C. I figured just probably some typos there. But ultimately, they're here.
No, he means in New York State.
Oh, New York State. Oh, okay, yeah.
Yes.
Sorry about that.
Yep.
But yeah, so, it looks like at least some people out there do appreciate and respect your work. I think we're coming to the end of our time. So final words, Larry, what do people need to hear that perhaps I didn't cover or that you were hoping I would or whatever?
Right. No, I'm with you on everything you're talking about. I get the questions you pose. They make sense. Mm-hmm. It's tough. I have to be able to answer them. We all should be able to answer those questions. The reality of it is, when you add me doing this twice before, my ability to raise money, I'm already right now polling at 8%. That's my base right now. Mm-hmm. And then add matching funds. This is literally a winnable race. It was hard for me to say that the first time I ran and the second time I ran because it wasn't really true. So I didn't really say that. Mm-hmm. I was looking for ballot access really only, impact only. Well, I still get that. And the advantage is because of how I'm already, running already, this absolutely will be a ballot access race. If we want the liberty movement to have value across the entire nation, we need to have 50 state ballot access. There is literally no one else who can do it in New York State right now. No one who would. That person does not exist right now. To make that happen, we need to make this campaign get ballot access. That means raising money. That means helping out volunteering. That means if you don't like what I'm doing, just say nothing. You don't have to be a jerk. You can just say nothing if you're unhappy, but you don't like me for whatever reason. Mm-hmm. But many people would just be angry anyway. It's fine. Whatever. The point being, that's what you could do if you want to. LarrySharpe.com/volunteer, LarrySharpe.com/donate to move this thing forward. If I'm able to get $500,000 from 5,000 New Yorkers, I will be able to get $3 million. This is a winnable race. Remember, the idea of ballot access is in the rearview mirror. As long as I'm on the ballot, which I'll get on, we'll make it. I'll make the numbers. That's fine. Now the Libertarian Party nationally has a $30 million asset that it can use to gain talent, to raise money, to help others. It becomes valid. If I actually beat the Republican, which is doable in my state because Elise Stefanik is not popular, there aren't many Republicans in my state. There are more independents in my state than there are Republicans. That right there will fire a shot across the bow for everybody running Libertarian across the country, no matter where you are. You guys can't do it. You guys suck. You see Larry Sharpe beat the Republican? What? Yes, we can do this. Here's the best thing. If I win this thing, it changes the nation overnight. Overnight. All of a sudden, you Libertarians can't win. The governor of New York's a Libertarian. What are you talking about? Do you see what happened when Milei won in Argentina? Oh my God, things can change. There's a chance. Then imagine I win in New York. Oh my God, this is real. New York State would have a socialist mayor and a libertarian governor. This shakes a two-party system to its core. Say you're listening, you're like, Larry, I don't care about you guys. I'm a Republican or I'm a Democrat. If you want better Republicans or better Democrats, get a powerful independent party in your state. Because that party will force them to be better Democrats, better Republicans. Otherwise, they'll lose to independent. And that's the key.
Awesome. All right, sir. Well, I appreciate you being on. I'm going to put you backstage. Hold tight for a second because I got a question I want to ask you off the air. But thank you so much. I appreciate all the answers to the questions, and good luck to you. We'll be following your race and see how things play out. But for now, I'm going to put you backstage. All right, folks, you heard it there. That's a wrap for this episode. I hope you found it informative and inspiring. Whether you're watching me live right now or you happen to be watching later, please come back at some point and drop a comment in the comment section for me. Let me know. Let Larry know. Just say, hey, good job. I'm rooting for you. Or, if you must, say, hey, you're never going to make it, and be the negative Nancy if that's what you got to do. I understand some of you, that's your role in life, whatever. But do what you got to do. Drop it in there. It helps out the channel and helps this channel grow. But that's all I got for you for now. So I'm going to head on out. I will see you guys next year. Have a good one.